I try to do this, and I started this in the last week or two, now that we have meat on the bone when it comes to schedules and obviously wins and losses. In the four corners, the teams last week, Paul, Arizona, did they win? No.
No.
Colorado, did they win?
No.
Arizona State, did they win?
Yes.
And so, no, Utah lost too.
To Arizona State.
So we will talk about Kenny Dillingham and the Sun Devils from Tempe, Arizona.
Well, my feeling about them this week in particular has changed with the fact that Sam Levitt, who has been getting better every single week, is now out for a couple weeks, and the human turnover machine, Jeff Sims, is in his spot, which changes as they go up to play a tough Cincinnati team. But you can't sell short of what they've done to this point in the season and how impressive it is. They just better hope that Jeff Sims has been coached up by Kenny Dillingham, who is he's a definite quarterback whisperer, that's for sure. And maybe some of those things are gone. There's going to be a lot of running from Cam Scatteraboo and probably a lot from Jeff Sims. So if they can do that, they can win. But still impressive, but this one's going to be tough without Sam Levitt.
Yeah, I think the Sam Levitt injury changes the trajectory that they were on, and now I'm a lot more doubtful about them getting a win this weekend than I otherwise was. Knew Levitt had gotten dinged up, but didn't know that it was to that extent where he's going to probably miss a couple of games. We'll see. Like I said earlier, play this week, get a bye, and all that. But fractured ribs, like, is that what we're talking about here? And yeah, it is. And so that's something that could keep you out for quite a while. So that's concerning, but is it fractured? Maybe not fractured, whatever the rib injury is, whatever the extent of it is, but those are tricky beans, your ribs. So we'll see if
you ever had a bruised rib or a fractured rib?
I've had a bruised rib.
You can't breathe. It's
yeah,
hard.
So that's tough. So yeah, I thought I saw fractures. Not fractured, because obviously that would have been worst case scenario. But still, that's a tricky injury that you don't know how long it's going to take to heal. So that's a bummer, but on the bright side, that was a really nice win last week over Utah. That was a signature win for Kenny Dillingham. A big moment for Cam Scatteraboo to really be on the national stage and show his abilities, and some cool videos coming out of that game. I think offensively it's tough because you started to like what you saw a little bit more in the passing game, but now you have the quarterback change. So I just anticipate lots and lots of Cam Scatteraboo in the run game and the pass game and special teams. So more of the same, really, as far as that goes. Defensively, I think they've been playing pretty well. So, yeah, I like where they are. They're sitting pretty. I would have probably still picked Cincinnati even if Levitt was healthy, but I don't know. I would have spent a couple more days really thinking about that. Regardless, they've got some winnable games moving forward if Levitt's to miss a couple weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I mean, at Oklahoma State, UCF, I mean, those are a couple programs that are struggling right now, so they need to jump up and get that bowl win sooner rather than later, because you don't want to get into those last couple weeks and be like, man, we've got to beat BYU to get bowl eligible, or beat Arizona on the road at the end of the year to get bowl eligible. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But the quarterback is where you look with this team right now.
Jeff Sims can come up with some big plays. The problem is, can he hold on to the damn football? I mean, Arizona State at Cincinnati, and that does look like a huge break for the Bearcats. Can they take advantage of it? All right, Arizona, they've lost to Texas Tech and then BYU. Now play Colorado. Two teams within the four corners. We'll get to Colorado in a second. 3 o'clock Saturday on Fox. Paul, Arizona Wildcats.
They're an average team. They've got some good pieces in Fafita and McMillan. We say this every week, but they're not very good on defense. They can kind of get one-dimensional. I haven't watched them like religiously. I've seen them a few times. And every time I'm like, damn, that McMillan's good. And then I'm like, well, they just got to have something else. And this is what happens when you have a coaching change. Like, yeah, you've got some good players, but you also have, some other things to deal with. And Colorado's coming in probably at full strength on offense. Horn and Hunter are going to play according to Coach Prime. So I think that one's just going to be a really tough one. But I do think that they can get some chunks on the Buffaloes. So should be a little bit of a decent game, but I still think Colorado's probably going to going to win that one. So
that'd be a big-time win. Now, Dion, the big-time win was when they beat UCF at the time on the road. But that would be, to me, like it keeps them from just ending up at 6-6.
But they also got absolutely pummeled by BYU last week.
No, they did. Yeah.
I don't know where their heads will be at for
You're
sure.
talking about Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Craig?
Yeah, I think it's a situation where there's some good things going on outside of Fafita and McMillan, but it's just getting overshadowed in general by the losses. I do think defensively they're not great by any means. And I thought they'd take a step back with the coaching changes, but they're respectable in some ways. The problem for them is they've got their whole secondary basically out with injuries this week. So the last team that you want to play is Colorado when you've got a bunch of injuries in the secondary that's hitting your corners and your safeties. That's concerning for me going into this game. And it's also concerning that you're just so reliant on Noah Fafita and Tetero and McMillan, and that in a lot of occasions here recently, Noah Fafita is not finishing drives, whether it's turnovers or whether it's not converting on fourth downs. But there's been some really bad turnovers here lately. I don't know if he's just trying to do it all himself or, other teams just make plays, but they've got to be able to finish drives, and they're not doing that right now. They're getting into territory. If you watch the BYU game, they got down there and had an opportunity to score on a few occasions and throw a pick or, stall out or whatever it is. So, that's where my concern is. You just can't rely on Fafita and McMillan to save you every single week. And you've got to be able to punch it in when you get the opportunity. So if they can correct that, I think that things would look much improved. But if that remains a problem, then, they're going to continue to pile up losses because you got to be able to score points, and you can't just expect that defense to keep you in a low-scoring affair, and come out on top of that, especially against Colorado, especially when your secondary is banged up. So I don't like them this weekend. I think they're likely going to take a third straight loss, even though this game's at home. If not, that'd be a great win to beat Colorado, but I'm not very optimistic right now about where they sit based on what we've seen.
And, Arizona, Colorado, both from the four corners in the Big 12 pod. This is when you try to test the mindset of your football team. Colorado had a 3-game winning streak, one in a Hail Mary and then overtime against Baylor. Then they go pound UCF, and they're kind of rolling. This, to me, is an interesting game because they were in a tough, down-to-the-wire game with K-State, in a game they could have won. I'm sticking with the Buffaloes, even though they are the team that is on the road in Tucson. All right, Craig, your thoughts about the Buffaloes, and then Paul.
I mean, Shador's great. To play K-State to the wire like they did last week was super entertaining and I think really encouraging, considering that you had so many guys banged up in that game, particularly at receiver, and to see guys continue to step up throughout that game. And then they get hurt, like Omarion Miller, hats off to them for just continuing to stay there and fight. And they've obviously got a very deep receiving core. So to know that Horn and Hunter are coming back this week, that's obviously a huge boost. And I don't think that's good news, again, for a banged-up Arizona secondary. So I like Colorado on the road here. I think they're in a really nice spot, better off than a lot of people expected them to be at this point. I think they should be 5-2, 3-1 in the conference. I know they're slight underdogs on the road, but I just think they're playing with a level of confidence that Arizona doesn't have right now. I know they're very leery of McMillan and Fafita and the big play impact those guys can have. But, again, beyond that, what are you really all that concerned with right now with Arizona? That's like something that stands out to you. There's not much. So I think you already, if you're Colorado, have built-in confidence that's just there regardless. If you're 0-6, you'd still be, cocky somehow, right? But this is actually legit, and I think that's a dangerous weapon to have with some super talented players and a defense that's clearly not the walkway or the open door that it was last year. So I like Colorado here. I like where they're sitting, and I think they're going to make a bowl game, and I think that they're going to get one step closer to that this weekend.
Yeah, I think they're definitely making a bowl game. I mean, I don't think the wheels are going to fall off. You only got to get a couple more to get that, and I think that starts this week. I really, I'm impressed with the way they've been able to coach around deficiencies that they can't solve right away. And that to me is growth of a coaching staff. I still think they need a different scheme on offense, and I think they're going to need it when you don't have the guy who's been running this scheme, since he was 15 years old, kind of through high school and Jackson State and everywhere else, when he leaves next year to go to the NFL in Shedeur Sanders. But in the short term, I just don't know if Arizona has enough defensive horses to stop the big play machine that is Colorado.
Yeah, Arizona's favored in this game. They get that 3-point favorite in Tucson, and there's some teams that are on the road that are favored, but Arizona the slight favorite, at least now, in that game. And then the team where the Utah Utes fans are just basically slamming their head against the wall. Now, for sure, that Cam Rising will not be a part of it. Isaac Wilson will be. Craig, you brought up the offense without Rising, and even it was bad watching it on Friday night in their loss to Arizona State. Your thoughts about the Utes? And this is at TCU, right? No. This is home against TCU, and they've been a mess too.
Yeah, they've been a mess. This is a toss-up game, if anything, I feel like. I don't know what to expect here. I guess I'd lean Utah, slight favorites at home, and the fact that Isaac Wilson's played a good number of snaps for you. But, yeah, that was really difficult to watch. I commend Cam Rising for giving it a go. And Kyle Whittingham, I understand kind of how he was trying to play that close to the vest and all of that, but I think it's probably a big weight off everybody's backs that you just know what the deal is now, and there's no more second-guessing or wondering or any of that week to week. I just think that's healthier for everybody to just know who the guy is and move forward that way. So I think they'll rally around Isaac Wilson. Again, he's played a ton of football, but he can't turn the ball over. I mean, he's just a true freshman. I mean, that does need to be taken into consideration as opposed to, the super duper senior that he's replacing. So there's going to be some ebbs and flows as far as his game goes, and we've seen that already. But if he can protect the football, then I like their chances at home. You're going to lean very heavily on Michael Bernard, obviously, like you did, you have throughout the season, but he had a big game last week. Defensively, you've got to play better than you did a week ago. That was not a good look for them, so they got to shore up some things there. But I still think they're a solid team. They're not at 100% at the start of the year like we thought they would be when they were kind of looking like they could be a machine. They're not that. They've blown a tire, so they are vulnerable, but TCU is such a wild card that it's impossible to go like, oh, yeah, TCU is going to take full advantage of that. Will they? Or will Josh Hoover throw like 5 interceptions? Him throwing around the ball versus this Utah defense will be one side of the game, and then obviously Isaac Wilson and what he can do. But I think Utah's going to make the best of what they have with what they have, and now you roll forward knowing what you have as opposed to a guessing game every week, and I think that's just good in general.
I think he'll improve as the season goes on, and they last year, I think their quarterbacks were hurt with just the specter of who's going to be the quarterback this week, one or the other, and then eventually they finished strong with the goat farmer or whatever that he was, and they did okay. But I think they'll be better on offense with Isaac Wilson than the other backups because he'll get steady practice is the number one for sure.
Yeah, and you're talking about Bryson Barnes, and he's not even on the team anymore.
Exactly.
So,
So they've improved from a year ago at quarterback, even the backup position. But it's still going to be – he's still a true freshman. He's going to do true freshman things, and even the best ones do. So – yeah, I think they'll be up and down. It'll be a roller coaster for them for a little bit. They're not going to contend for the conference anymore, I don't think. But that defense is still really good. Bernard's still really good. So if they can build it around there and regroup with Isaac Wilson, then I think that's good.
One of the things though that happens when your offense is not going to be productive, and especially when you
it hurts your defense for sure.
Yeah, they're on the field. I don't know about time of possession, number of snaps. By the way, back to that Colorado-Arizona game. Colorado. Not a surprise. 131st in the country in sacks allowed, right, out of 133. Arizona is like below the top 50% when it comes to getting sacks on defense. They're 79th out of 133, so that's a stat to see if they can get to Shedeur because a lot of teams have. But Utah, TCU. By TCU, they're not the one we're discussing. We're talking about Utah. And as we had earlier in the week when we had Scott Mitchell on, Kyle Whittingham's at his breaking point right now with the Utes, but go back to chipping and, being who you are, but they're going to have to win games with that defense, and they're going to have to find a way with Bernard to run the ball pretty well. So there we are with the 4 corners involving the Big 12. And, man, there's so many crazy stuff and a long way to go.